I'm Kim Livingston Cobb, and so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about resiliency with students and some ways that we might help them during this pandemic time. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So with faculty, obviously we know that you guys are really busy and have a lot on your plate, and so some of this too is really allowing us in student success to come beside you and work with you and help out with our students. And so I like to use the example of kind of the faculty dilemma, but a situation where, you know, a student has been doing really well in your courses and then all of a sudden they start having absences, they're not turning in assignments, and then maybe they're absent for a midterm or a large exam or something like that. And then at that time they email telling you all of this stuff that's going on in their lives and basically asking if they can make up the exam or their work or something like that. How do you guys feel when you get this kind of email from students as you're trying to work in your classes?
Well, I guess for me, I'm sorry, turn my camera on real quick. Hi, I'm Dr. Hisham Lawrence. I'm the interim associate dean for the Souls College of Business. I have had a couple of emails, not with that one paragraph, but bits and pieces of that in several emails. And I pretty much tell my students, life happens. And so I'm not going to penalize them for something that is out of their control. So just for me, just the courses I teach and the way I teach my courses, I would say, yes, I will allow you to make up your exam. Here is a time slot that you have to take it. And I would also advise them, if you need any further assistance, here's the counseling center's number, here is a student success number to reach or email to reach. And I would give them additional resources, not just, yes, I'm a nice person, I'm a nice professor, you can make up the exam, but here's some additional resources that you may not have been aware of because no one has ever brought that to your attention. So. Absolutely.
And what a great response. And so I think a lot of times, you know, faculty can also feel like, oh my gosh, you know, this is a lot that this person has just shared with me, and you know, you kind of try to figure out, you know, how you can help and at the same time, you know, keep the integrity of your class and all of those things. And so, you know, it can kind of be overwhelming when you get these kind of emails, especially if it's, you know, a situation where, you know, you're getting towards the end of the semester and, you know, if they haven't been doing well in the class and they wait till the very end to let you know that something like that is going on. And so one of the things that we like to talk about is, you know, how do we catch this early? How do we figure out how we can help students as early as possible so that it's a little easier to recover, both for the student and for you in managing your class?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I get a lot of emails like this as well, and especially now. If this were the email that I got, would it be overkill to do a care report for something like this? Like, especially if they've got like that many different levels of stressors, financial, mental health, illness, like, is that overkill?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yes, we absolutely want you to make care reports, even if you're not sure if it's overkill. You know, does that make sense? We would rather have too many of them than not get one, you know, that just kind of falls through the cracks and is not getting the help that they need. So absolutely, thank you for that. So if we kind of look at, what our students are bringing to campus. So a lot of times, the challenges don't start here on campus. They start outside. They start when they're coming to campus. They start with, whatever backgrounds they have, whatever challenges they have. And a lot of students bring particular mental health concerns just as they're starting school, and then some obviously develop those while they're here, but a lot of times students bring to campus what they're already dealing with. And so we like to really talk about stress and all the things that add into stress. And so this is a slide that I used to show, and obviously still do, but about what are the things that cause us or cause our students stress. And so that can be a wide variety. Usually what we hear, it's school, it's work, it's relationship issues, and especially change. And so I think it's important to recognize that even good change is challenging and stressful. And so when you put all those things together, a lot of times someone who is really, really stressed out can have some physical and emotional reactions to stress. And we all react differently. So, for some people, they might get headaches or muscle aches. Some people might have, stomach challenges, or, a lot of different ways that we might react to stress. Some people might feel anxiety or irritability or depression. And so there's lots of different ways that we can react to that. And all of those are kind of everyday pre-pandemic type things. And students are still going to have all of those same things going on. But I think there's also another layer happening now. And so, students are also facing, fear and worry about the health and safety of themselves or about people that they love, people that they care about. They worry about finances. We have a lot of people who have lost their job. Maybe students are for the first time having to figure out how to pay for school because their family income has changed just in the last few months. We see a lot of loneliness, and even right now, even students who are on campus are, feeling some of that loneliness just because of the social distance that we need to maintain, because of, not being able to have a group in their dorm room or some of those kinds of things. So there's still some of that loneliness going on, even when we're back together on campus. And that's not even to talk about the students who continue to be just online for us. And so there is more of that happening. Obviously, the social unrest is really challenging. There are a lot of issues happening right now related to discrimination and things like that are major stressors and burdens for a whole lot of people. Also, technology issues, for students, it's, should I be online? Should I be in person? What does the technology at my house look like? How am I able to interact? If I have a immunocompromised person, what do I do, in a lot of these situations? And I think there's some challenge with figuring out, should I be in person or should I be online? And, just the uncertainty, even as faculty and staff, we have the conversations of, okay, well, how long is this going to last? And what are things going to look like in the middle of the semester and towards the end of the semester? And we can make all the plans that we want, and those may or may not happen the way we want them to happen. Obviously, the social isolation kind of matches with that loneliness. And also for our students who are parents, again, helping our kids cope. It's a challenging time. Even little ones right now. And I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who, is going back to school in person and has some of that fear of exposure and things like that. And then also there's a sense of grief a lot of times, whether that's grief because of, health or safety for themselves or for a loved one. Maybe they've lost someone during this time. But even if we think about kind of the lost opportunities, how are things different now than they were? The things that look different here on campus, even our social activities. We need to be very careful. We can't have groups of more than 10. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different opportunities that I think are different now. And for a lot of students, this can be a sense of grief. We talk about the postponement of, graduations, and our freshmen now, they've gone through this period of COVID their senior year. So things look different then, and then things, things look different in their first semester here. So I think keeping in mind that, this is a challenge and for all of us. Some of the potential impacts that we're seeing is, some students are really struggling academically. In the spring, when we all had to go online, that was a major challenge, I know, for faculty, for staff, and for our students, just trying to figure out how to change the way we learn and things like that. And that can lead to some academic struggles. And then just this feeling overwhelmed or hopeless, about either being successful this semester or in general about how life is. That can definitely happen, that sadness and loneliness. Some students feel an increase in anxiety with the uncertainty. Some feel an increase of, irritability or anger. So you might have some reactions for students that that kind of seem out of proportion to what's going on. And that can kind of be a reaction to the stress. Substance use and abuse, there's so much, so many jokes and things online about, how much we're drinking, and things like that. You always see the jokes about the wine use and things like that. But our students that struggle with substance use and abuse, there is a reality to that. And it can be very serious and very concerning. And so this is a challenging time to remain in recovery for our students. Also, if there's something that's happened in their past, sometimes this time of uncertainty can kind of trigger old feelings, could kind of bring up some old stuff. And so that can make a difference as well. In our student counseling center, we've started kind of looking at, what's different. And a few things are different in what we're seeing with our students that initially present for counseling. And I think the anxiety level has gone up. And so, that's something that is kind of across the board, I think, for a lot of people. And these top 5 are pretty normal, pretty consistent in our counseling center as far as what is the top 5. But I think we've seen kind of a little bit of a decrease in some of the other areas and an increase in anxiety. And then all of a sudden the issue of attention has really popped up as one of our top areas. And so, you may see with students that, they're having a little bit of a hard time paying attention. when you have a lot of challenges with anxiety or depression or stress, sometimes it really affects your ability to focus and concentrate and pay attention. And so you may see some of that as well. Students right now, 50% are saying that they can't concentrate as well. These are students that have come to counseling, and they're having a hard time staying motivated. They feel isolated and alone, and some find it challenging to keep up with schoolwork and things like that. We're also seeing a percentage that are getting angry easier, and 6% have had thoughts of ending their lives. And then 5% have done something they've regretted because of alcohol or other drugs. So students are having a lot of these different challenges right now. So what is resiliency, and what can we do? I like the picture of, the little tree growing out of the tree stump. It really is that bouncing back, that ability to be faced with whatever it is, the challenge, the adversity, the tragedy, all of those major sources of stress, and keep going, keep moving forward, and keep figuring out how to, manage the stress and all of that from those difficult experiences. And so that's really what we want from our students. It's not our goal to make our students' life completely stress-free. It's really our goal to help them learn how to overcome and be resilient in all things. And so, what can we do? So some of it is kind of in our initial messaging with our students. If you've lived in Texas and ever tried to make a snowman, you realize that there's a difference between expectations of what that snowman could look like and what the reality is. And so sometimes it's the same way with our students. Sometimes students come into college thinking that it's, for our freshmen, maybe that they're the way they've always studied before is going to be the same, that they're going to make straight A's like they always did, those kinds of things. And so I think really working with them on what our expectations are, what the reality right now is, can be very helpful. And then that early detection. So with our messaging, we have to realize that the major distress happens when our reality doesn't match our expectations. And so students need to begin to realize that, stress, distress, those kinds of things are predictable and are expected, so we really approach it with, it's absolutely normal to be challenged. We want you to be challenged. There are going to be times that, things are going to be a struggle. There might even be situations where you fail in something that you're trying to do. And that is a part of life. It doesn't mean that you're not cut out for school, or, that something's seriously wrong with you, that a lot of students think everybody else is fine, but I'm not fine. So really talking about that and talking about it's a normal part of life to be challenged. And so, and so getting that reality and can really help in handling our emotions. And so, and realizing that our high achieving students really also struggle. So I know, a lot of times, we're really focused, and that's awesome, on making sure that our students that are coming here are high achieving, that they're, they've done really well in high school and things like that. And sometimes it's our students that really are our highest achieving that struggle more when they come to college, because maybe they haven't had to work as hard at something as at grades and things like that, as someone who, may be more of your BC students. And so they're not used to that struggle when they get here. They're not used to really being challenged. And so, that can seriously impact them. And then, letting students know that, their ability to be successful really has a lot to do with being able to manage this stress, these challenges, all of those kinds of things. And so the early intervention, the earliest that we can intervene, is really the most effective, because, it's the longer you get in the semester, the closer to finals, it's a whole lot easier to bring up a grade at the beginning of the semester than it is to go through a whole semester of being challenged and not doing well, and then at the end of the semester trying to all of a sudden make up the grades and things like that. So we want to try to get to the students as early as possible. This isn't accomplished alone. And so that's why our campus has all of these different resources, because, again, talking about that, it's normal to have challenges. It's normal to have struggles. But that's why we're here. And we are focused on your success. And so that's why we're, telling you about these resources. That's why you might get a call from someone on the care team that's checking on you. That's really just, so that we make sure that you have the resources that you need. And so really having those kinds of conversations with our students can be really helpful. Some really simple kind of early detection, missing classes, whether they're in person or online, or, not logging into a class. That can be kind of an early sign that something's going on. Not having the textbook can be a concern. There might be a financial issue that they're struggling with that we don't know about. And so being able to kind of check in when you see those things, not turning in assignments, what's going on, that is causing this to happen. You may have students that, are falling asleep in class, or having a hard time focusing or concentrating, or not interacting. This can be due to stress. This can be to maybe they're having insomnia. Maybe they're having a hard time sleeping because of this level of stress. So that can be a sign. Obviously, right now, report of illness. You may have emails from students saying, I'm sick. Maybe even I've tested positive for COVID. And so those kinds of things are things that we definitely want to make sure that our students have the resources they need. You may see a student that just all of a sudden, that lack of hygiene is a challenge. And they may be visibly anxious, or, like I said, angry or irritable. And so those kinds of things are more of that sign, that something needs to, some kind of intervention needs to take place. Sometimes, even in our conduct process, some of the things that we really work at doing are asking those questions. Okay, even with all of this that's going on, how are you doing otherwise? Is there anything else that you're dealing with that, is impacting what's happening here, that's impacting maybe your academics or something like that, and really offering those resources, whatever that issue is, and assist them with connecting. So, if you're offering the resource of counseling, you may want to assist them with coming to counseling. Right now, we're doing a lot of telehealth. They can make appointments online, things like that. So maybe even, helping them to figure out how to do that. And then following up with them, being able to say, okay, how's that going? Were you able to set up some counseling, or, were you able to take advantage of, the tutoring center, or, our financial wellness office? So following up on some of those things. So we talk about a disengaged student. Sometimes we have a student that is struggling that, may present as angry or anxious or depressed, but a lot of times, what we see is kind of that avoidance. So the avoidance of interacting in class, the avoidance of turning in work. So a lot of different things, they can really be avoidant. And so those are things that, we may have to deal with as well. So when a student gets angry or irritable, kind of trying to figure out what's behind that. So when a student is angry, a lot of times that is due to, they see something as hostile or unjust. So, they feel like, something is wrong. Maybe they think that you're hostile against them, or someone else is hostile against them, or they may see a situation or something happening with themselves or a friend as unjust. And so so this is kind of something that leads, these kinds of thoughts are what can lead to that external behavior of aggression. And so when there's physical or psychological distress, when they have all this other stuff going on, then sometimes that sense of it's not fair, or, you're out to get me type of thing can be a reaction to that. And so, there may be times that you see that kind of behavior. And if we can kind of try to get to the bottom of, what is it that's causing this, then that can make a difference. So with anger, there's basically two different coping options. Adaptive, which, we're problem focused and we are constructive. We're trying to figure out how to solve a problem. But then the maladaptive, I think, is a lot of times when you see the aggression. So that really emotion focused, the denial of a situation, it's really not taking complex things into account. And so, with aggression, it could kind of go either way. So you might see aggression outward, but the anger and aggression inward is where we see the depression and the anxiety and avoidance situation. So different students may react different ways, but they both can be harmful situations. So with anxiety or avoidance, what's going on behind that is, they expect that something bad is going to happen, that there's some kind of bad consequence. They anticipate that, someone's judging them, or they feel like they're a burden to others. They're not really focused on a task. It's more of just kind of that something bad is going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's kind of a learned helplessness type situation where they don't feel like they can get out of whatever situation that they're in. And so their response to that is maybe to avoid rather than to tackle what's happening and try to make that better. So in order to help with this, we need to help them do a couple of things. One, to recognize what's going on, and so get them to realize the normalness of struggles and challenges and things like that, reframing that. And so, things like, these challenges are normal, and what we can learn and grow from, even, if you have a failure, we can learn and grow from that and, And we're probably going to grow even more because we've experienced this. And so kind of, reframing that, how can we move forward? And then reflect, how can you impact what's going on with you, and so finding ways that they can be successful and impact their role, impact their own lives. And then, making sure that we're connecting them to resources, letting them know, again, your success doesn't happen all by yourself, that's why the university has these kinds of resources. And so, we have some students sometimes that don't want to take advantage of a resource. It's almost I don't want to burden that person or those resources, and yet we have to help them understand that that's why we have a job, that's why we're here, is to help you. And so it's an expectation that you connect to these resources and for us to help you. So we have created this summer, it's a faculty staff emergency guideline. So hopefully it can kind of help with some of those, what do I do when? And so, if you have a student that, is disruptive, or, you're seeing some poor performance, maybe you're having some absences, and just, seem to really be having a challenging time. This is something where, you might want to, if you're comfortable, meet with that student individually to kind of find out what is happening, what is going on, and find a way to connect them with resources. So, some of those resources, could be, helping them to understand, the class, to do some little time management, and then refer. So this is a time that a Patriot Strong alert is great, and because if they're having some financial concerns, and we have someone on our Patriot Strong team from financial aid, then you've got someone there that can help the student manage those things. Same way with housing. Maybe they're having a struggle with housing. Someone on the team is from housing. And so making those Patriot Strong alerts can really be helpful in making sure that we're connecting our students to this help that they need. So, then sometimes we may see something that seems a little more challenging. Maybe they're failing, maybe you're seeing some, they just seem sad all the time, or they're falling asleep, or, you see this change in them. A lot of times it's the change that makes a difference. So, you might see someone who was normally doing really well, and then that changed. And so that's really where we want to be a little more concerned. And so that's a great situation to file a care report, refer them to counseling. We have a crisis hotline, so referring them to some of those things. And as that, continues, as that continuum happens, making sure that we're referring both to care. It may end up, in a situation that is, a major concern, a threat to self or others. Those are going to be situations where you're going to want to get UT Police Department involved. And so the main thing that I think we want you to know is, whether you're filing a Patriot Strong report, you're filing a care report, we're going to figure out how to get it to the right place. So, the most important thing is being sure that you are filing a report, so that we can respond to the student, and we can make sure that they're connected to resources as well. And it's so helpful when you all also refer them to resources. Tell them about counseling or our financial wellness or some of those things, so that they recognize, this is something that it's normal to take advantage of these resources. So some of these resources I'll go over with you. We do have a student counseling center. It is free for our students. They already pay for it through their student fee. Sometimes that can be helpful to kind of say, you've already paid for this, so you might as well take advantage of it. Services are confidential, and so we have the same level of confidentiality as a licensed professional in the community. So we do have some walk-in available and same-day appointments. Right now, all appointments, unless they're crisis, are online or by phone. And so students can even go in and schedule appointments online now. It's all through the Student Counseling Center website. We also have a 24/7 crisis hotline. They can speak to a professional anytime, day or night, even on holidays. So that can be very, very helpful for our students. We also have a Center for Students in Recovery. So if a student shares with you that they're in recovery or thinking about recovery, that maybe they're using alcohol or other drugs more than they should, or maybe they feel a little out of control, our Center for Students in Recovery is a great way for students to seek connection and support in their recovery. And so Bruce is a great resource for our students. This is our 24/7 crisis hotline. We also have our Center for Student Financial Wellness. So Dana is great in this office, and she will sit down individually with students and help them work on budgeting, on financial awareness, on how they're managing debt, on what's their plan for paying back student loans, all of those kinds of things. If there's a financial type issue, Dana's a great resource to refer your students to. And she's also doing online appointments and appointments by phone, and she's got a great website with a lot of resources there as well. We also have an online self-help. It's called TAO, and it's through the Counseling Center webpage. There's a lot of great resources. I really like the self-screening tool, which will kind of help them to see what areas they might want to work on. There's modules there. I also really like they have some mindfulness videos and things like that, some relaxation that can be really helpful as well. And as faculty, you are also able to sign up through TAO. So does anyone have any questions?
I just have one question. Will this presentation be sent to us if we need additional information?
Absolutely, yeah. We are going to post these presentations on our student success website, but if you would like a copy of the presentation, feel free to email me. I can send that to you.
Yes,
or if you just need us to consult with you or anything like that, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Like I said, if you have any questions or need anything from me, feel free to call me, email me, and we'll help you.